Disney's remake of Snow White is finally out. But how does it compare to the 1937 original, which built the company? Instead of focusing on internet drama, let's break down how both of the films were made and ask, why were these made? From animation breakthroughs to CGI dwarves. This is the wild evolution of Snow White. Oh, and whatever you do, don't comment the word remake in the comment section below, otherwise I'll have to remake this video, but with more special effects. And I'm not very good at special effects. Explosion. So, the new Snow White movie is out, titled simply Snow White, rather than the original's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The crazy thing about the two films is that they're almost 100 years apart, with the first releasing in 1937, and of course the live-action remake coming out this year, 2025. This is interesting as Snow White, the intellectual property, is pretty much the reason for why we have Disney, and why it's such a behemoth within entertainment and Hollywood. Instead of whining about Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, there are plenty of other videos online that discuss these topics. Insert Nerderotic or any critical drinker podcast highlight. I personally wanted to talk about the development of these two films and see the difference between, well, 1, how they were made, and 2, why they were made. I recently rewatched the original Snow White a few months ago, and before the movie starts, good old Walt Disney puts a personalized message on screen thanking all of the people who worked on the film. Wow, say what you will about Disney the person, not the company, but I can't fathom a single executive producer or someone who owns a company who actually thanks the people who work for them on a regular basis. Like, name a single director or producer who works currently in Hollywood who actually publicly thanked the people who worked on their films. James Cameron, Steven Spielberg don't actually thank people like Disney. It's not just a nice thing to do, it's honorable. He said, and I quote, "My sincere appreciation to the members of my staff whose loyalty and creative endeavor made possible this production." Now, ain't that just old-fashioned English? The first idea of producing a full-length feature film at Disney came in 1933. Disney and his team were hard at work producing shorts for the Silly Symphonies series, which were popular music-focused animations. But the mouse will always reign supreme. Always. A lovely lady named Mary Pickford, who co-founded United Artists, approached Walt to make a possible feature film, and originally pitched to either make a live-action or an animated adaptation of Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland from 1865. Wow, that is old. The people who were alive when that book released are now all gone. Unfortunately, pesky Paramount Studios got in the way, and this happened numerous times with various adaptations due to legal tensions with who owned the rights. This included Disney's attempt to make a feature film on Rip Van Winkle. Fun fact, one of the most successful Silly Symphonies shorts was a production about the Three Little Pigs. The success of this short actually gave Disney the confidence to move forward with a feature-length animation project. In July 1933, Disney announced publicly that he and his team had plans to pursue a feature film, and after the announcement, were even approached to make an adaptation on Felix Salten's 1923 book, Bambi: A Life in the Woods. Sound familiar? Other projects were thrown at the wall, like an adaptation of Homer's Odyssey, Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels, and Victor Herbert's operetta, Babes in Toyland. However, nothing stuck. That is, until two brothers grimly ate the spaghetti that was thrown. This metaphor has really lost the plot. The Brothers Grimm had an old fairy tale from 1812 called Snow White, and boy, Disney loved it. Though the company had considered making it into a short, it just made sense to be longer and bigger and more expensive-er. That's not a word. In June 1934, the New York Times announced the film as Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and at the time, it was recorded to have a budget of $250,000, which is roughly $5.9 million today. This was a huge deal. A short was one thing, but a 90-minute feature film? The staff were nervous, and rightly so. Animator Ward Kimball said at the time, "It was okay, 6-7 minutes, like the shorts, but an hour and a half? No way. Big reason was that you run out of funny things to do. You had to have a laugh a minute, and the bright colors would hurt your eyes. Everybody would get up and walk out." Walt, of course, plugged ahead. He didn't believe that. He felt that if you had a solid story, not only laughs in it, but tragedy, it would go. The earliest version of the film was created by Richard Creedon in August 1934, featuring various ideas for the characters, songs, and scenes. During this draft, the movie was quite different with a more tomboyish Snow White. and a plot where the evil queen imprisons the prince within her dungeon. The most crucial part of this early draft were the dwarves. They were the comedy that Disney was most known for. This is where a lot of the names that the dwarves have in the original film come from, including Sleepy, Hoppy, Bashful, Happy, Sneezy Wheezy, Big O Ego, and Awful. More writers jumped onto the project, including Larry Morey, Ted Sears, Albert Herder, and Pinto Colvig. Together with Disney and Creedon, the gang honed the story, making what we know today. In early drafts, it seems the prince had a whole B-plot where he escapes the dungeon, fights the queen's guards, and gets some help from Snow White's animal friends. Funnily enough, Disney wanted to make the movie more funny, in juxtaposition to the Brothers Grimm fairy tale. Disney himself offered any of his staff $5 to come up with gags for the script. After some breaks and a lot of reworking, the film was simplified, aimed primarily to focus on Snow White, and you guessed it, the Seven Dwarfs. Animation began in 1936, having an overall dramatic vibe, with painting techniques based on what they were doing in Europe. Grim Natwick, most well known for designing Betty Boop, worked on the film's female characters, as, well, he was the best at the time. Rotoscoping, which is when animators trace over live action footage, was used specifically for scenes with Snow White and the Prince. Lots and lots of people worked on the film, but unfortunately, money was running low. Disney even mortgaged his house just to keep the film afloat. It then released on December 21, 1937, and on opening night it received a standing ovation. People loved it, and now they've remade it for modern audiences. So what's going on with the remake? Actually, before I get into that, the company Filmmaking released an unlicensed sequel in 1989 called Happily Ever After, or in European countries, Snow White: The Adventure Continues. This thing is ridiculous. It follows Snow White and the Prince just before they get married, and features of course Snow White, the Seven Dwarfs, Mother Nature, and the Shadow Man. Ooh. It did actually make a few $1 million at the box office. However, Disney has gone on record saying that this film and the company's Pinocchio sequel are blatant ripoffs. Now onto the new movie. The live action remake of Snow White was originally announced in 2016, with Mark Platt signed on as a producer. Mark Webb, who is most well known for doing the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, signed on as a director a few years later. Lots of people came and went, including Greta Gerwig, Gorinda Chadha, Jeff Nathanson, and more. Some of these people have received credits for the writing, others haven't. It's a whole thing, and like, who actually wants the writing credit for this film? It's not doing too great, is it? The pandemic screwed this movie left, right, and center, delaying most of the production. Well, that thing, and another thing, and another thing. The strikes. However, after many delays, things managed to start rolling again, with production ending sometime in 2022. This is until, the reshoots. Now yes, Rachel, our lovely lady in white, was cast as the main character, and she is a Latina actress. This erupted with criticism, saying that the original material had the saying, "skin as white as snow." Because of the ethnic change, Rachel's version of the character is named Snow White because she and her parents survived a snowstorm. Like, sure, why not? And I'm Oliver No Hair. The dwarves. Let's talk about them. We've all seen the pictures of the doubles, but why was this? Peter Dinklage, Tyrion Lannister, was very public about how casting dwarves in the live-action remake was very backwards, essentially pushing down his community and implying that they can be nothing more than comedic relief, which, although is somewhat true in the 1937 original, upon a rewatch, Dinklage really stuffed up. The dwarves are by far the best part of the original film, with Grumpy, the one in red, having a full character arc within the movie, one of the only actual arcs in the story. This push from Dinklage, who by the way at the time was being cast in everything, like he was in Transformers 7, led to Disney taking a different approach for the film, and I quote, "avoid reinforcing stereotypes from the original animated film." Not long after, in 2023, after the film had been completely shot, some set photos were leaked, showing that the Seven Dwarfs had been reimagined. Only one of the actors featured in the photo was an actual dwarf. The others were ethnically diverse, including a female. Apparently, according to the original script, the Seven Dwarfs weren't meant to be dwarves, they were meant to be supernatural beings. Not humans, supernatural beings. Ah yes, replace DEI with DEI. Clever. Good old Wee Man from Jackass was likely a huge reason as to why Disney went backwards on the decision that they went forwards with. He said, and I quote, "You're replacing jobs that people could have as little people. It's for dwarves. Why are you hiring Snow White and the 7 average people?" I'm sorry, but all of this sounds very much like high school drama, and it's a professional multi-million-dollar feature film. It's ridiculous. The internet ate this up, forcing Disney to reevaluate their reimagining, and as a result, they reshot most of the film, replacing these supernatural beings with CGI dwarves. You know what would have saved them a lot of money? Using actual dwarves. There is also some political tension between Rachel and Gal, which I won't get into, but this is in regard to the Israel-Palestine conflict. As a result, this political tension shined a lot of light on the film's cast, and like the CGI dwarves, not in a good way. The film was meant to release in 2024, but it got delayed by, of course, the reshoots and the 2023 writers' strike. It's now out. The premiere was very strange. Boy, I wonder why, as it didn't feature any red carpet press. So like, why premiere it at all? Why even bother? So there you have it, Snow White, the Seven Dwarfs, the Prince, and the supernatural beings. Both films seem to have a very intense and emotional developments. One for good reasons, passion, dedication, art, etc. The other for politics, diversity, virtual signaling, and overall poor management and just bad timing. I'm talking about the original, by the way. If you're interested in the history of Minecraft, I have a video that will be in the outro going over the entire story of that. Next time you become homeless, don't sleep in a stranger's home, unless it's 1937. Don't forget to do push-ups every day. I'm gonna go now. Bye.